How's it going, everybody? You know who it is. My name is Sunwoo, and today I'm gonna talk about 5 features that I think could and should be implemented on the OPZ. Let's do it. Bang, bang. Alright, so the first feature that I think could and should be implemented on the OPZ is resampling. Now, for all of you who don't know what resampling means, it basically means that you have the ability to record whatever is going on inside the unit and then further process it. And this has the advantage that I can manipulate my samples a lot more than if I don't have the ability to resample, because, for example, I only have 2 effects on the OPZ, and if I have the ability to resample, that means that I can put 2 of these effects on whatever track I want to resample. Then I resample that track, and then I can put 2 other effects on top of it, and then resample it again and put another 2 effects on it and resample it, and therefore layer more effects on top of my existing sample or my existing sound. I could also do the same with LFOs. I could send an LFO to the pitch first, then resample it. Then I send an LFO to the filter frequency, for example, and therefore I can make my sounds sound a lot more alive and just give them a lot more texture and make them more interesting. So yes, feature number 1, resampling would be really good. And the way that could be implemented would be very easy. So if we go to the module track over here, that's where we decide our inputs and outputs. Here you can see it says input signal. So that's where we usually select our input signal, which is then going to be sampled on the sampling page. So instead of being able to select only the microphone or headset and USB, they could just put another option there that could say internal or resampling, put it on button number 4, and then when we go to the sampling page, we would record whatever is going on inside of the unit. And I don't know why they haven't implemented it, because the OP1 also has this feature. I think they have a little ear icon to signal that whatever you are hearing is being recorded. And I think every sampler should have this feature. Yeah, so that was feature number 1, internal resampling. And now we get to the second feature that I think could and should be implemented, and that is loop crossfading. In order to better explain loop crossfading, let's listen to a little sample that I recorded. Alright, that's a sample, and as you can hear, it starts and it ends, it doesn't loop yet. So now let us turn on the loop function. I go to the second parameter page of my sample page and create a little loop here. So these 2 points are now the loop points. As you can hear, there is a nasty click. Probably even if I shift these around, I will still get some kind of click. So as you can hear, this is not a very nice loop. And one thing that other samplers employ is loop crossfading. That means that once the loop comes to the end and wants to return to the beginning again, it will slowly fade out as the beginning is fading in again. And this will create a much smoother transition in between your loop points, and therefore makes it a lot more easy to find smooth sounds in order to create nice keyboard instruments that just don't sound crappy. Because this doesn't sound nice. And yes, I know you can find loop points that don't create a click, but it doesn't work on every sample, and also it takes a lot of time. So maybe if they just implemented another parameter page on the sampler page itself, where you could change the values for loop crossfading, that would be very nice. In fact, the red encoder is not even used on this parameter page, so if you just made an option for loop crossfade percentage on the red encoder on this parameter page, the problem would be solved and you would have a much easier time to create nice sampled instruments. So we are done with feature number 2, loop crossfade, And now let's move on to feature number 3, which is sample storage and sample management. In order to get there, we are going to go out of this menu, hold the screen button and turn the green dial in order to get to the configurator. So, as many of you probably know, the OPZ can only store up to 10 different sample kits or drum kits that can be used on the first 4 tracks, as well as 10 different sampled instruments that can be used on the last 4 tracks. And if you are like me, that is probably not enough for you, because I like to use a lot of samples and chop them up and build my songs around that. And I think many users have noticed this problem and addressed it online, but I don't know why Teenage Engineering hasn't come up with a solution, because I think there is an easy solution to this. Now, if it was just for using the OPZ on its own, I think it would be really hard to implement a sample storage and sample management option on the device itself. But we got this nice OPZ companion app, and I think within this app it should be super easy to implement some kind of a storage management option. In fact, we already got this configurator here, which allows us to exchange different sample packs that we have stored on the device and copy them to different slots. For example, I go to sample slot number 3 here, and you can see it right here. And if I wanted to put another sample pack in there, I go here, drag it on here, and press commit. Now, that's nice and all. I like the design. I like how it's implemented. It works quite well, but the big problem is it only allows you to shift around the sounds that are already on your OPZ and shift them from one sample slot to another, or shift them from one track to another, but it doesn't allow you to add new samples from a library that you have stored on your iOS device, which of course would make a lot of sense because you have a lot more storage space on your iPhone or on your iPad than you have on the OPZ. And of course, it would also be nice to store the samples that you have on the OPZ into your iPhone or iPad in order to use them later and exchange them whenever you feel like it. But this current implementation of just being able to shift around the samples that you have already on your OPZ is very limited and a wasted opportunity, in my opinion. So, for example, what they could implement is right now you can just swipe left and right in order to access what's already on the device. What if you could swipe up and down now in between different folders of saved state of the device, at least, or different folders that you have arranged in something like a specific configurator? Which brings me to the next idea, which kind of still ties into the same point, and that is, why don't they implement the drum utility that exists for the OPZ and the OP1 in the app itself? I mean, it is so obvious to me that something like that should be implemented. If you don't know what the OP1 drum utility is, it is a really great program where you can drag in single drum sounds and make a kit that is compatible with the OPZ and the OP1. And why not implement this into the OPZ app? I think it would just make sense and would make life for an OPZ user a lot more easy. Now imagine for 1 second, so we are on my sample track right now, meaning the sample track uses a drum kit that consists of as many slices as there are keyboard keys right here. What if I could just double click, for example, onto this kit that I have selected right now, and it opens a new window where I see the OP1 drum utility and can select each single slice that's on the keys and maybe exchange different slices from one to another, or delete one slice altogether and put another slice in there. And that's something that's really bugging me about the OPZ. There's no way of editing a drum kit. Once you recorded it, that's it. No exchanging of single slices between different kits, for example. And I feel that is really annoying, because even something like the POKO can do this. You can shift one slice from a totally different drum kit to another drum kit. And I think that should be possible on the OPZ, because, of course, the OPZ is supposed to be the more advanced device. So to conclude, as my third wish, I wish for better sample management and better sample storage with an implemented OP1 drum utility. I hope this makes sense. Now let's move on to point number 4, more access to the synthesizer engines. Now, what annoys me and probably a lot of you out there about the synth engines is that there are only 2 unique parameters to each engine, parameter 1 and parameter 2. All of the other parameters that you can see here are the exact same on every synth engine. Now, while this makes for very quick decision making in the music making process, because there aren't a lot of parameters to be changed, it also makes for a very limited palette in sounds. And yeah, this is why a lot of people, I think, get bored of the OPZ, because at some point it just sounds all the same. You have heard all the synth sounds that are on the device. And what if you could somehow access the underlying parameters of the synth engine that are there somewhere? The developers will have access to these parameters, but we don't. We only have access to these 2 parameters. So my suggestion again would be, why not implement this in the configurator? Now again, what if in the configurator we head over to a synth engine, in this case the organ engine, and if we double clicked it and a window opened, that would give us access to, I don't know, maybe 16 underlying parameters of this engine that we could tweak to our liking, and then possibly save as a preset for later use in our normal sequencer view when we only have 2 parameters accessible. Maybe we could even define what these 2 parameters are, and then again save it as a preset. And I think these presets could be saved and recalled rather easily. For example, right now I am on the organ synth. What if I could recall all these presets for the organ engine by just swiping up and down and going through a list of the presets? And these different presets could have even a different description that I could enter to remind myself of what parameters I have changed, what parameters I have chosen for P1 and P2, and so on. I think that would be an easy and intuitive way to get a lot more mileage out of the synthesizer engines. So this concludes number 4, more access to the underlying synth engine parameters and more customizability. And let's get to number 5, a wish that I read online many times, and that is a drum synthesizer, or rather the Microtonic engine for the OPZ. It has been implemented in the Pocket Operator Tonic so well, and the PO Tonic also only uses 2 different parameters to edit the drum synth engine. So I think it would be a perfect fit to be implemented on the OPZ, and I think again would give the OPZ such an advantage to its competition, because the Microtonic engine is really cool, and yeah, I think would make this not just a great sequencer / synthesizer and sampler, but also an amazing drum machine. So a boy can dream. Number 5, drum synth Microtonic. Alright, this is it for my top 5 feature requests for the OPZ. What kind of features would you out there like to see? Please let me know in the comments. Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I appreciate a like, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you want to see more. If you want to further support me, check the link up there or watch another video over there. And if you want private lessons on the OPZ, link in the description. I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a wonderful time. Peace.